Yeehaw, ladies and gentlemen. The Colorado Rockies take down the Minnesota Twins in a bounce-back victory for the boys. A final score of 5-4. Ezequiel Tovar. The truth, the future, one of the best young and up-and-coming players in Major League Baseball. Ryan McMahon snaps out of his slump, and Cal Quantrill, I heard this on the postgame, All-Star game bound? He's sure pitching like it. We'll break it all down on tonight's episode of the Locked On Rockies POSTCAST. It is a victory show. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rockies POSTCAST, powered by Mile High Sports, part of Locked On Sports Denver on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What is up, everyone? I'm your host, Aniello Piro. Welcome on into the Locked On Rockies POSTCAST, and I'm rocking, for those of you watching on the YouTube stream, how you doing? I got my Twisted Tea cowboy hat on. I think I'm going to call this the victory hat. I'm going to try to do the show, at least I'm going to do the first segment because I got to put my headphones on so I can hear myself and all that stuff. But for the first segment of these shows after the victory, it is Twisted Tea time. It is victory time as the Colorado Rockies take down the Minnesota Twins by a final score of 5-4. It was a little dicey. That Ryan McMahon home run later in the game certainly proved to be the difference here as the Rockies only win this game by a singular run. With that 5-4 final score, they improved to 24-43 on the evening. Minnesota now at 35-32. And we'll break it all down here on your Locked On Rockies POSTCAST. And of course, it is Locked On Sports, your team every day. And today's episode of the Locked On Rockies POSTCAST is presented by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms, they do apply. More from our friends over at Game Time in just a few minutes here. But let's start out with this stat of the day. I heard this on the TV broadcast at the end of the game. Any guesses? Any thoughts about what the Rockies' record is against teams above 500 versus teams below 500? The answer might surprise you. And while you're simmering on those thoughts here, make sure to hit that subscribe button on this brand spanking new Locked On Denver Sports YouTube channel. We just started it a couple of weeks ago. Smash that subscribe button because I'm going to be here after just about each and every Colorado Rockies game the rest of the way this season. And I think we've got some stuff planned for the Broncos, for the Buffs, the Nuggets, and maybe even the Avalanche along the way. So we'll be here on the Locked On Denver Sports YouTube channel. Great partnership between Locked On Sports and Mile High Sports, who is my primary employer. So love to see the two worlds coming together. But the answer, the Rockies' record against teams above 500, and the Rockies are now 24-43 on the season, 15-13. Let me say that again. The Rockies' record against teams above 500, 15-13. So a winning record, nothing crazy, but a winning record for a team that, is an afterthought in this town and is always down and out and irrelevant, according to some people that work in sports media or are sports fans in Denver. They have a winning record against winning teams. And one of those wins comes tonight against the Minnesota Twins, 35-32, or who are 35-32, excuse me. The problem is their record against teams under 500. The Rockies don't even have 10 wins against teams against teams who have losing records. 9-31 is the Colorado Rockies record against teams below 500. 9-31 teams below, 15-13 teams above. So playing up to the level of their competition, but also playing down to the level of their competition. I don't really know what to make of that because in theory, you should be able to beat up on some of these bottom feeding type teams. And you should also probably struggle against some of the good teams in Major League Baseball. But here they are. They get a win against the Minnesota Twins. They had that great series against the Philadelphia Phillies. We've seen them win some games. The Texas Rangers, they had a good series against. So I don't know what gives, but the Rockies are playing their best baseball against quality opponents, and they're playing their worst baseball against suboptimal opponents. So I don't know what to make of that entirely, but I just thought that was an interesting notion to throw out there. And hopefully, they can continue to play well against these teams that have those winning records and slowly, not even slowly, they should just improve their record against these teams that aren't so good. And look, I'm not trying to say the Rockies are going to make the playoffs if they're able to do this, but I think it is a sign that this team maybe isn't as bad as the public perceives or maybe as bad as people think. There's a lot of young talent on this team. Ezequiel Tovar, Ryan McMahon's doing his thing, having the best season of his career. Brenton Doyle does his thing. There's a little bit of a youth movement going on with this Rockies team, and nice to see it come to fruition a bit today in this victory 5-4 over the Minnesota Twins. So we'll see what happens here moving forward. And of course, they've got that game coming up tomorrow in the series finale before a much deserved off day. But let's get into this game, folks, some of the game flow. And you really didn't need to turn this game on until about the 6th inning because both starting pitchers were on point, both for the Colorado Rockies and Cal Quantrill, and the starting pitcher for the Minnesota Twins. So let's fast forward here real quick to that 6th inning as Ezequiel Tovar, responsible for breaking the tie, puts the Rockies up 3-0 with an absolute bomb to left field. I mean, this is the 11th home run of the year. It's funny to me because this is a guy who I believe is after that Saturday game against the St. Louis Cardinals, who basically came out and said, I don't try to hit home runs. Like when it happens, it's a byproduct of me being locked in and dialed in. For a guy who we didn't know if he was going to have much power or was not rather known for his power stroke as he was coming up to the big leagues, the fact that he has 11 home runs, on pace to have more than 20 home runs, I mean, this guy is molded into just an incredible player. And I've got a clip that I'll play for you a little bit later on in the program today. From it was over the weekend. It was a pod that I did over the weekend right here on the Locked On Rockies postcast. But just kind of talking about Ezequiel Tovar and, his abilities, why he should be compared to guys like Oneil Cruz and Elly De La Cruz. You know what? I'm teasing it right now. So why don't we go ahead and play it? Because Ezequiel Tovar has just been absolutely sensational for this Rockies team. And look, I know last year it was his rookie season. A lot more downs than ups, but whatever he did in the offseason, his mentality's there, the consistency's there, the defense is there, the contact hitting is there, and now the power is there. And if the Rockies are if this guy's going to put it all together, the Rockies are going to be set at shortstop for at least the next 5, 6, 7 years. Remember, they did give him that 7-year contract extension not so long ago, but it looks like the Rockies have found their shortstop of the future in Ezequiel Tovar. Here's my clip from over the weekend, the Locked On Rockies postcast, where I was talking about Tovar, his numbers, the Rockies' history of drafting and developing really good middle infielders, and just the future with Ezequiel Tovar at the shortstop position. The Rockies have themselves one of, not just a good young player, one of the best young players in the game today. They've always had a good history of developing shortstops, right? Troy Tulowitzki, Trevor Story, and now maybe Ezequiel Tovar is the next great Rockies shortstop. But like how the Green Bay Packers always just end up with like great quarterbacks. They go Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers, and now it looks like Jordan Love's going to be the truth. It's kind of a similar dynamic with the Rockies here where Tulo, Story, and now Tovar. And look, now you've got a guy who's 22 years old in Tovar who has the potential to be a face of your franchise and a next great Rocky shortstop. He should be talked about like Elly De La Cruz and talked about like Oneil Cruz with the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Cincinnati Reds, respectively. I mean, his numbers are on par with guys of that caliber. He's sensational, and I stand by, and now, like, look, my hair's all wacky because I was wearing that cowboy hat throughout the game, but I stand by everything I said in that clip. And now Ezequiel Tovar, who was hitting third tonight, batting average back up to 292. The one hit that he had in the game was the home run, but 3 critical RBI for Mr. Tovar. And again, I can't stop thinking about the fact that he's only 22 years old. I mean, this is a guy that should continue to get better in year 23, better in year 24, better in year 25, especially as he rounds into his prime. So the future is very bright for Ezequiel Tovar. But let's talk about how the Rockies set him up to hit that 3-run home run. And the Minnesota Twins bullpen is actually responsible here, as to start the 6th inning, relief pitcher Caleb Thielbar, I hope I said that correctly, replaced starting pitcher Louis Varland, who actually had a pretty good outing. And look, I know his numbers coming into this start were not very good, but Louis, He ends up, let me pull this up for you real quick. He goes 5 strong innings pitched, only gave up 1 hit, no earned runs, 1 walk, and 3 strikeouts. I believe his ERA was in the 9s before this game, and that takes it all the way down to 7.06. So Louis Varland did a good job of keeping this Rockies lineup in check. But as soon as the Minnesota Twins go to the bullpen, trouble strikes because we had a leadoff single from Charlie Blackmon to right field on a high fastball, and it was up. I mean, Charlie was a little bit late on it, and it's almost like the fact that he was late on the swing is what helped him get this ball into right field. So that's how they get the leadoff single from Chuck, and then Brenton Doyle in just a fierce at-bat, a 3-2 count, I believe, if memory serves me correctly. He had to foul off a number of pitches, I remember. He draws a walk, so that gives the Rockies with runners on first and second, and then here comes Mr. Ezequiel Tovar doing his thing on a 3-1 count, absolutely crushes, destroys the ball to left field. And that puts the Rockies up 3-0. You absolutely love to see it. If you've not had the opportunity to see the home run, go to my social media at Media by AP. I have it posted over there on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. Is anyone ever going to actually call it X? It's always going to be Twitter to me, always. But so that's how the Rockies get their first 3 runs of the game off that Ezequiel Tovar 3-run shot. And then they actually are able to add a 4th run in this inning as well. Ryan McMahon, after the Tovar home run, rips a double that was almost a home run for himself off the wall in center field. And a little small ball, Jacob Stallings with a sacrifice bunt to get McMahon to third. And then Michael Toglia, who's done a good job of, playing great offense and good defense for this Rockies club in the last week or so. He generates a sacrifice fly that gets Ryan McMahon home to put the Rockies up 4-0. So that's how the Rockies get a bulk of their runs tonight. And then Minnesota, like I said, to start the show, was a little bit sweaty. It's a 1-run victory for the Rockies. Maybe shouldn't have been that close. 2-run home run in the 9th for Minnesota. Holding my breath. Do I have to recreate the thumbnail? Do I have to recreate the background? Is it going to be rewrite season? I was holding my breath, but the Rockies come through. So let's hit a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about how the Rockies and the rest of the game went for them, and we'll also hone in on Cal Quantrill's start because he was dialed in for this Rockies club, and he's been dialed in for a majority of this season. So stick with us. We'll be right back right here on your Locked On Rockies postcast. All right, let me tell you about our friends over at Stitch Fix real quick, guys, because listen up, it's hot out. You're going to need to change out that fall-winter wardrobe for your spring-summer wardrobe. And you know that confidence boost that you get from an outfit that makes you look really good? That's what I get with my friends over at Stitch Fix, guys. With Stitch Fix, you get a stylist who understands your style, your size, and your budget. They do all the shopping for you, and it's the easiest way to update your wardrobe this season. Again, you can easily upgrade your wardrobe this year with a professional stylist that helps you find new on-trend favorites that work exactly for you. I just give my stylist my size, my style, and my budget preferences. I order boxes when I want and how I want, no subscriptions required. And they send back 5 just for me pieces, plus outfit recommendations and pro styling advice. I keep what works and send back the rest. My stylist always sends just the right pieces, and the fit is always on point. It's like they have a degree in this stuff, guys. I don't know how they do it, but they just get me. Stitch Fix makes it all so easy. I don't like to shop, and they save me that time and effort. Plus, I get outfits that make me look good and feel really good. And if you don't love something, just send it back. Shipping, returns, and exchanges are always free. Style that makes you feel as good as you look. Get started today at stitchfix.com/MLB and get $20 off your first fix. That's stitchfix.com/MLB for $20 off. Stitchfix.com/MLB must redeem within 7 days of signing up. And I say this every single time after I do the Stitch Fix read, guys. Denver folk, Denver fellas, Denver ladies, if you're listening, tell the fellas about this as well. Summer is here. I love the sweat, the t-shirt, ball cap, jeans combination, basketball shoes as much as anybody. Get yourself some nice collared shirts. Get yourself some nice clothing, because when you're popping out, if you're going to Rhino, if you're going to Lodo, if you're going to South Broadway, you're going to want to look good. You're going to want to feel good, and you're going to want to play good when you're out there, right? You're with the homies. You're with the fellas shooting pool, maybe a little darts, chit-chatting with some people. You're going to want to look your best, and our friends over at Stitch Fix are going to take great care of you. StitchFix.com/MLB. Let them know Locked On Rockies sent you. All right, welcome on back into your Locked On Rockies postcast, Locked On Sports, your team every day. And I'm Aniello Piro. You can follow me on social media at Media by AP. If your heart desires, we'll be here after just about each and every Colorado Rockies game the rest of the way. So make sure to smash that subscribe button on this brand new Locked On Denver Sports YouTube channel. But okay, let's continue along. So when we left off in the first segment, the Rockies were up 4-0 after the Michael Toglia sacrifice fly. So a little bit of small ball and the power stroke from Ezequiel Tovar on total display for the Rockies there in that sixth inning. Now the Twins managed to bounce back and score a couple of runs in the seventh inning. This is after Cal Quantrill was removed from the game. Victor Vodnik, who's actually been one of the more reliable and consistent relief pitchers for the Rockies this year, he comes out of the bullpen, and they noted it on the TV broadcast. I don't know if he was just overthrowing or if he felt really good. I mean, it just looked like Victor Vodnik was coming out and just throwing the ball as hard as he possibly could and missing the zone on some pitches, leaving some pitches hanging over the middle. And it was almost a disaster for the Rockies because Willie Castro leadoff walk, which we all know is a cardinal sin in Major League Baseball. You do not walk the leadoff batter in any circumstance, let alone when you're trying to close out a game in the latter innings. So Willie Castro draws the leadoff walk, and then in short order there, Byron Buxton blasts a 2-run home run, which brings Minnesota within a couple of runs there. So not like total hold your breath time, right? But it was like, oh man, here we go again. Like you never know with this Rockies bullpen is what it seems like on a game in and game out basis. But Vodnik giving up a couple of runs there in the seventh inning with that Byron Buxton 2-run blast. And again, it wouldn't have hurt so bad if it was a solo shot. And look, I know the Rockies win the game, but that leadoff walk, man, if the Rockies lose by 1 run, or if it's tied in the ninth and you go to extra innings and you lose, you're going to look back to that leadoff walk, in my opinion. So not the best stuff from Victor Vodnik tonight. Hopefully he can bounce back because we know how erratic this Rockies bullpen can be. And we'll talk about Tyler Kinley here in just a second because once again, holding my breath with this Rockies bullpen. But Ryan McMahon, who was in a pretty big slump, I believe 0-4 last night, just has not, I don't think he's had a multi-hit game in quite some time until tonight, rather. He snaps out of his slump in the perfect way because he blasts a solo shot to right field in the top of the eighth inning, a critical run, which puts the Rockies up 5-2, their final run of the game, which proves to be the winning run for Colorado. So nice to see Rymack snap out of his slump. He had hit a couple of balls pretty hard, while he was in that slump. So maybe some signs that it was coming to an end and whatnot. But to see him get over that hump with the home run, with the double, in his previous at bat, he was a critical player in this Rockies victory tonight. So nice to see Rymack bounce back because especially if Elias Diaz is going to be out for maybe a considerable portion of time, you're going to need Ryan McMahon to anchor the middle of that lineup. He's hitting 262 on the year, OPS of 788. Charlie Blackmon also, we talked about him a little bit earlier. He got a base hit tonight. He's had a phenomenal road trip. His numbers don't jump off the page at this point, hitting 259. But Chuck has been fantastic for the last couple of weeks for this Rockies team. I know he's not playing as much. I know that there's a lot of moving parts with Charlie Blackmon at this point in his career. But he did some good stuff tonight for the Rockies as well. So shout out to Chuck. But let's now fast forward, if we may, to the ninth inning, because this is where, and I love how my screen loves to freeze on me, so bear with me so I can give you guys the correct information. But this is where things start to go south. And thankfully they didn't go too far south because, like I said, I was holding my breath here, wondering if the Rockies bullpen was going to blow this game. And so here's how the ninth inning goes, the bottom of the ninth, that is, for the Rockies pitching staff, who almost blew this game, which is unfortunately not an uncommon occurrence for this team. So Tyler Kinley replaces Jalen Beeks, who came on in relief of Victor Vodnik earlier in the game. And I don't know what was going on with Kinley. They also, I think Spilly noted this on the broadcast, there's not a lot of break on a slider, just kind of a dull hanging slider, which is a very hittable pitch for Major League Baseball players. And he comes in and gets into trouble right away. Willie Castro rips a double, his 13th of the year, I should add, to right field. So Minnesota here with a runner on second in scoring position with no outs. And then Byron Buxton proceeds to fly out to left field. Remember, Byron Buxton hit that 2-run home run earlier in the game to put Minnesota on the board, but he went fishing for that one. I believe it was a pitch that was on the outside portion of the plate, and he hooked it all the way to left field. I mean, if this was a guy who you probably couldn't sit on that ball, but someone who was seeing the ball well, that could have been dangerous. And look, like I said, I know that they get the out on Byron Buxton, but Byron Buxton did Tyler Kinley a favor by going fishing for that one. And then we get it down to 2 outs with the Alex Kirilloff strikeout, and then Carlos Santana just absolutely beams a home run to right field. And that brings the Minnesota Twins within a run here. That makes the score 5-4. So that is when things start to get a little bit dicey, but then they're able to get the out. The final out of the game is Jose Miranda, strikes out swinging at a pitch that was low and in the dirt. So they did have to get the force out at first base on the drop third strike. So erratic outing for Tyler Kinley. He finishes with those, I believe, 2 earned runs. Let's confirm that. Yeah, an inning pitch, 2 hits, 2 earned runs, but 2 strikeouts. So, just good enough was Tyler Kinley tonight for the Rockies out of the bullpen. But all in all, like I said, just a good victory for the Rockies. Their offense finally wakes up. They had scored 1 run in their previous 2 games leading up to this one tonight against the Minnesota Twins. And Ezequiel Tovar. Minnesota actually out-hits the Rockies tonight 8-7, but 2 errors committed by Minnesota. And just Ezequiel Tovar, I was sitting there, I put it out on Twitter at Media by AP because I tweeted it out during the game on Monday night. I was like, are the Rockies really about to blow a second consecutive close game or a second consecutive, game where your starting pitcher actually goes out there and does a pretty darn good job? Because that's what it was looking like for a minute there until Mr. Tovar did his thing. So you love to see it, like I said, a 5-4 victory for the Rockies tonight. And really, to me, the story, as much, I haven't even talked about Cal Quantrill, and I feel like I always want to talk about the pitching, but just so nice to see Tovar do his thing, continue to hit the ball well, and nice to see Ryan McMahon snap out of his streak, or slump rather, I should say. But let's talk about Cal Quantrill here real quick, guys. 6 innings pitched for him, 3 hits, no earned runs, only 1 walk and 5 strikeouts. His ERA is now down to 3.30. And let me see. I had saw a tweet from the Rockies. I want to say their PR staff. Stick with me because it does a good job of kind of summarizing just how good Mr. Quantrill has been. Yeah, here it is. So this is before his start today. Cal Quantrill's 2.20 earned run average, 41 innings pitched, 10 earned runs since May 1st, is the 6th lowest in the National League through that span. That's pretty darn good, so he's been one of the best pitchers in the National League, over the last month and a half-ish as we get towards the middle portion here of June. And he delivers once again tonight, just in total command, focused, dialed in, and doing all the small things right. So you'll love to see that from Cal Quantrill. His record improved to 6-4. And again, just 6 strong, solid innings, only gives up 3 hits, no earned runs. I mean, if the Rockies can get that on a semi-consistent basis, they're going to put themselves in position to win some of these games moving forward, which again, brings me back to where I led off the show. 9-31 against teams below 500, 15-13 against teams above 500. So this team has the talent. They've got the chops. They've got the makings to compete. Maybe not contend for a postseason spot right now or contend, for a division. God forbid the Rockies can actually win a division at some point in their franchise's history, but good enough to be competitive. And that's the one thing that I've always said about the Colorado Rockies as it pertains to the local sports scene. Yes, you want to contend for a World Series. Yes, you want to contend for a division title. But the problem with the Rockies in recent memory is they've been irrelevant. No one is talking about them. No one is watching them. They're not in the day-to-day water cooler discussions at work outside of, wow, this team stinks, sell the team. Those are the only conversations that have been talked about with the Rockies. But you see the record against these teams above 500. You see Ezequiel Tovar. You see Bretton Doyle. You see Ryan McMahon. Elias Diaz when he's healthy. If the Rockies can just play close to 500 ball for a majority of the summer, they're going to have some interest. They're going to inject some optimism into this team. Look at the young players. Look at some of the stuff they've been able to do against these really good teams. Texas Rangers, defending World Series champions. Phillies, one of the hottest teams in baseball. And now a clutch victory with Ezequiel Tovar doing his thing and Cal Quantrill doing his thing on the mound against the Minnesota Twins. So, like I said, baby steps, right? There's levels to this stuff. The Rockies have never won a division. The Rockies have been to 1 World Series, and it was a Cinderella run. But if you can be competitive, if you can play 500 ball, that ballpark will be packed. The fans will at least be interested and engaged because right now, the last 2-3 seasons, the Rockies are a fleeting thought in the mind of the Colorado sports fans. So hopefully wins like this and young players like Tovar and company are going to be able to help inject some of the life back into this Colorado Rockies team, because when the Rockies are good, Coors Field is the place to be during the summer. I love Coors Field. A good Rockies team is good for the city, it's good for the state, and it's good for the sport. So we'll see what happens with the Rockies moving forward. But let's hit a break here real quick, guys. And when we come back, we'll put a bow on the show, recap some thoughts, and get you guys on your way on this Tuesday night. Ooh, my headset's falling off. All right, real quick. Wow, I did that too early. The video wasn't even done yet. Real quick, let me tell you about our friends over at Game Time. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down. It gets closer to first pitch. And with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. Ooh, where did I go? And let me tell you about, sorry, I lost track there when I was doing the read. But like I said, guys, some of their best features, their last minute ticket deals, flash deals, zone deals, easy to find and buy Major League Baseball tickets and for every kind of event in your area. And let me tell you about some of these extra perks that our friends over at Game Time are going to give you, the customer. Their last minute deals, guys. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. All you got to do is download the Game Time app and check them out. Flash deals. Save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or the event. Zone deals. Save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats for you. All-in pricing. Toggling this feature shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. And the seat views, guys, you're going to love this. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Lowest ticket price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Not 50%, not 100%, 110% of the difference from our friends over at Game Time. Guys, what are you waiting for? And Game Time's ticket coverage is the best because your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. All right, welcome on back into your Locked On Rockies postcast. I'm your host, Aniello Piro. Appreciate you guys rocking with us tonight. And before we get out of here, I kind of went on a little bit of a tangent there in the second segment, so I got to wrap it up rather quickly here. Just a good win. You know, nice to see Cal Quantrill doing his thing. I think he should absolutely be in consideration for the – could the Rockies think about this? Could the Rockies have more than one All-Star this year? Look, we know that there's the prerequisite where every team has to have an All-Star representative. Elias Diaz's numbers are up there. Ezequiel Tovar at this point, if he keeps it up, he should absolutely be an all-star. But how about Cal Quantrill? Maybe a lesser-known commodity, but a guy who's just been absolutely on point over the entire course of this season so far. And again, 6 strong innings from him tonight, 3 hits, no earned runs, 1 walk, and 5 strikeouts. His ERA is at 3.30. And I'm sure his ERA went down, but in May, or since the start of May, entering to tonight's game, his ERA was 2.20. So you love to see. We got a couple of comments here. Tovar rocks. Let's go. Rugby Prof 2. He also says Quantrill also rocks. And then finishing it up, he says, I've been a stupid believer in the Rockies since I was in middle school and have watched EY launch that homer in their opening game in 1993. My man, Rugby, stick with us, bro. Rugby Prof 2. We're going to be here after just about each and every game. Appreciate you, my man. Make sure to smash that subscribe button. Tell your friends. We'll have some fun. Because that's the thing. This is a fun, energetic, high-paced show, right? I try to keep the energy high even when they lose. But, like, darn it, I just get so mad. Like, I'm a baseball guy, man. Like, that was a sport that I grew up playing. I love baseball, and I just get so annoyed when people just overlook the Rockies, and I'm guilty of this sometimes myself as well, but this year's team is not last year's team. There's a lot to be excited about. Last year kind of felt like a lost cause, right? You were kind of just putting pieces together on the runway as the plane was being, in motion here. But right now, you're starting to see some of the foundation take hold, and that's what gets me excited about this team. So tonight, Tovar good, Quantrill good, Chuck Nasty good, Ryan McMahon good, bullpen, but good enough. So all in all, you'll take that if you're a fan of the Colorado Rockies. But let's take a look at what's on tap for tomorrow, the series finale between the Rockies and the Minnesota Twins. And it'll be, I'm looking at June 5th. I was like, why? They just played Cincinnati last weekend. Austin Gomber will be on the mound for the Rockies tomorrow. He's 1-3 with a 3.38 ERA. Rough. I don't want to say rough. I forget exactly how he performed against St. Louis. I don't think it was that good. And then he had a rough outing previously as well against Los Angeles Dodgers. So Gomber, for the most part, has been pretty good for the Rockies this season. A little up and down in his previous 2 starts. And they'll take on Pablo Lopez of the Minnesota Twins. He's 5-6 with a 5.45 ERA and 79 strikeouts on the year. So should be a good matchup. Let's see if the Rockies can get a series victory here. Yes, they lose Monday, but they win tonight. They win tomorrow. They take 2 of 3. They split against St. Louis. Okay, so let's do some mental math. 4, 5, 6. It'd be a 6-4 road trip if they're able to, right? 2 wins against St. Louis. 4. Yeah, 4-3. As you can see, math is not my strong suit. That's why I yap for a living. 4-3 road trip if the Rockies are able to win tomorrow against the Minnesota Twins. So let's see what they got in store. But again, the Rockies at 24-43 on the season. And then they'll get a much needed off day on that Thursday before they start a weekend series against the Pittsburgh Pirates. And it looks like we're going to miss out on Paul Skeens, man. Who's the young starting pitcher for the Pittsburgh Pirates. That was one guy that I was hoping the schedule would line up because I want to see Paul Skeens pitch with my own 2 eyes. That dude's the truth as well. So a good victory tonight for the Colorado Rockies. They win 5-4, again, improve to 24-43. And I'm just going to end it here because it's the one stat that just continues to drive me insane. The Rockies' record against teams above 500, 15-13. The Rockies' record against teams below 500, 9-31. Improve that last mark. Get your record to above 500 or close to winning against those teams that are sub 500. Continue to play good baseball against teams that are above 500, and you're going to find yourself with a pretty fun season when it's all said and done. But that is going to do it for me, folks, on tonight's episode of the Locked On Rockies Postcast. Appreciate you guys. I think my boy Paul Holden, who is the standard host of the regular Locked On Rockies podcast, is going to do the show with me tomorrow. So a little crossover episode, get his opinion on what's going down with the Rockies, and away we go. But a good victory. Cal Quantrill doing his thing. Ezequiel Tovar doing his thing. As our guy Rugby Prof 2 says, Tovar rocks. Quantrill rocks. Absolutely. I think both of those players should hopefully be in line for all-star game consideration. I think Tovar for sure. Quantrill, a little bit lesser of a name, but his numbers have certainly warranted that consideration, to say the least. So good stuff from the Rocks tonight. They bounce back after a 2-game skid. 5-4, big win against the Minnesota Twins. That's going to do it for me. Enjoy your Tuesday night, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow after the series finale between the Colorado Rockies and the Minnesota Twins.